Hello, BookTube. I was worried that I was going to have to start a video today apologizing to you because I was going to disappear from your view. I was worried that the outside world was going to come between us, but it turns out this morning, in Boston Superior Court, it turns out that once again I have been passed over for jury duty. So instead of being mired in proceedings for 2 weeks without any energy to do anything when I'm done, and with a miserable puppy at home, I was free at noon. So I came back, and there's some mail, including the mother of all boxes. I thought we'd just go through the mail. This is I knew I was going to lose count, and I knew it was going to happen soon. This is the 5th mail haul of the week, the 4th mail haul of the week. I'll look back at the videos, and I'll get the right number in the title of the video. But in the meantime, let's see what we have here. We will, of course, culminate in the box. But what have we got before then? Can you see her? It's just a blur of destruction down there. She is now as eager for the mail as I am every day. So what have we got? This first one is it's from Thomas and Mercer. And it is a thriller that's called Killer Thriller. Okay, it comes out next year. It comes out in February. It's called Killer Thriller by Lee Goldberg. And I guess it's the second book in the series. The first one was True Fiction. And now the adventure continues in the highly anticipated sequel, Killer Thriller, which features the same clever mix of exhilarating action, rapid-fire dialogue, and the sly subversion of genre tropes that made the first book a breakout success, and takes it to the next level. Okay, so this is all about freelance super spy Clint Straker. And it looks like it's just... Well, I don't know. That bit about undermining tropes notwithstanding, it looks like it's just by-the-numbers, really high-octane thrillers. We shall see. The taxi sign on the front is kind of quaint. Can't remember the last time I used a taxi. Or actually, I can. I remember it all too vividly, and I don't know why I thought it was a good idea. These gig car services like Lyft or Uber are so infinitely superior that I don't know what took me so long to start using them, and I dread when I can't. I absolutely dread when circumstances force me to use an ordinary livered cab because the Lyft driver, the car is clean, the driver is courteous, and he's not clipping his toenails on his steering wheel because I get to rate him. And he has the map on his phone right there on the dashboard. So there's no taking me to Rhode Island in order to go across town just to goose up the bill. And there's no arguing either. The rule, like for instance, I use Lyft all the time. And the rule with Lyft is that even if your navigation map shows exactly the route to take, and even if you know the way, you adhere to the customer. You defer to them. I know where I'm going. I only go to a few places, but that is so superior an experience to a normal cab. Not to mention being a third as expensive. My only question with Lyft is the same one that I've had from time to time with cab drivers. I get in very mindful of the fact that they do this for a living. They do this all day long. Most of them do this all day long. And I don't like imposing opinions or restrictions on somebody. I like to just be their passenger because, I don't have to drive a car all day. But sometimes, it happened all the times in cabs, and the answer was no. If you tried to do anything about it, the answer was no. It happens sometimes in these gig, in Lyft or Uber, where the driver will have music on. And the music is always this kind of, early 90s, late 80s earworm jam type stuff where the hyperventilating announcer will say, now it's time to begin another solid hour of hits of yesterday and today. And they preface the solid hour of hits of yesterday and today with a solid hour of commercials. They just talk about commercials for an hour. And then eventually, when you think maybe you can't wait, the music comes on, and then it's stuff guaranteed to be playing in your head forever when you don't want it to be. And I know that ahead of time. So the only problem I have with Lyft is that I sometimes debate with myself about whether or not to ask the driver to simply turn the music off until I leave the car, so that I don't have We Are Family playing in my head until, doomsday. But that's a small thing. Let's see. Let's see what this next one is. What have we got here? Oh, good. Oh, fantastic. All right. This is by Joseph Ellis. I'm sure, as a popular historian, I'm sure you'll all know him. Won the Pulitzer Prize. This is American Dialogue: The Founders and Us. This is his new book coming out, I think, in November, October, late October, and I'm very glad to have it because I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm going to be writing about it. It's just, well, let me see. Do I have a pub sheet? No? No? Okay. The story of history is a ceaseless conversation between past and present. And in the American Dialogue, Joseph Ellis focuses the conversation on the often asked questions, what would the Founding Fathers think? He examines 4 of our most seminal historical figures through the prism of particular topics, using the perspective of the present to shed light on their views, and in turn making clear how their now centuries-old ideas illuminate the disturbing impasse of today's political conflicts. There's a certain name that's not being mentioned here, in case you're wondering. He discusses Jefferson and the issue of racism, just in case, for instance, we have a racist in the Oval Office. John Adams on the specter of economic inequality, just in case we have a fake millionaire or a fake billionaire or a tariff trade war advocate in the Oval Office. Washington and American imperialism, just in case we have someone in the Oval Office who thinks that territories of the United States where people are citizens are actually conquered countries, or who maybe thinks it might be a good idea when you invade a country to take all of its natural resources right in front of the Human Rights Court at The Hague and not even know what that is, or that it's wrong to just take the oil. And James Madison and the doctrine of original intent. So there we have it, a 4-part trifecta right there. We have. So this book is about what those seminal founding fathers thought about 4 different, gigantic, procedural and constitutional abuses under, I guess, the weird, post-apocalyptic scenario in which we had a president that embodied all 4 of them. Through these juxtapositions, and in his hallmark dramatic and compelling narrative voice, I have never known this author to have that. I'm hoping that this book will be a fresh start late in his career. Ellis illuminates the obstacles and pitfalls paralyzing contemporary discussions of these fundamentally important issues. Well, okay, we could also talk about the issues. We don't have to talk only about what's paralyzing the discussion. There's an easy answer for what's paralyzing the discussion. Twitter. Twitter is paralyzing the discussion. Twitter is utterly toxic and polarizing. I make a point now, or I try to, when I go on Twitter. If I say to myself, okay, I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes looking at Twitter, I try to do something explicitly positive in that time while I'm there. Find an author who has a book that I really liked and tweet that to them in public view, so that I'm not only giving them a boost, making them happy, but I'm also telling everybody who's watching that this is a really good book. Do something like that. Reach out and do something entirely positive. You see a tweet by somebody, maybe a fellow booktuber or something like that, and you just take the opportunity out of thin air to tweet a response saying, well, I'm sorry to hear that you're having a problem, but you sure have a great channel. Something like that, where they don't expect it, they're not looking for it, and it's just positive. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to the tsunami of acid that you get on Twitter. And that's what's stopping the discussion, is that we can all do hot takes in real time anonymously. That's just corrosive. But the issues, the actual issues that are brought up here, colonialism, the breakdown of the system, those I hope Ellis will address them too. I hope he doesn't try in this book to do a pointed discussion of the ills of American politics in 2018 without actually doing that, without actually risking offending people. Because if I have to read a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian join the enormous ranks of people who are afraid of offending Donald Trump's base, the base that likes red meat like zoo animals, the base that yells "lock her up" about a political candidate from 1807, if I have to read another thing by another person who has become afraid of alienating that base, I don't know what I'll do. I really don't know what I'll do. Well, actually, in this case, I do know what I'll do, since I'm going to be reviewing the book. But I'm hoping that he spares some discussion for not just what's stopping us from talking about these things, but also what's allowing these things to happen. The abuses that are happening here, the rolling back of environmental privileges, the rolling back of efficient fuel standards, the institutionalization of a denial of radical climate change, where you're not even supposed to, you have been instructed now, if you work in those departments of the U.S. government, not even to use the words. The words are forbidden. The cozying up with enormous businesses, the levying of enormous tax hikes for the top 1% of the wealth in this country, while also instituting pointless tariff wars with Canada that are going to hurt everybody else, really already started to hurt everybody else. The loosening of restrictions on the financial industry, the last time that was done, it resulted in the economic crash of 2008, which almost destroyed human civilization as we know it. It came that close to doing that. And the reason why all of those things are happening, I mean, we can talk about the immediate or the proximate reason. And the immediate reason, of course, is that there's this racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron in the Oval Office. This person that some of us, have been writing about him for decades. Just an utterly typical, utterly by the numbers, completely amoral, corrupt business swindler who happens to be president. That's the immediate cause. But the proximate cause is Congress. The proximate cause is the balance of powers has broken down. The idea was always, in this system, from the Founding Fathers on, was you pit competing ambitions against each other. You pit competing vanities against each other. And that will work to balance the system. Meaning that if you have a thoroughly corrupt, venal moron in the Oval Office who's breaking the law in plain light of day, saying on national television and in a live interview that he fired the head of the FBI because the head of the FBI was investigating him. That is a crime. Or was implicated lately, just recently, implicated in court by a close confidant as being part of a federal crime, when the confidant is going to jail. So it's not likely the confidant is lying. It used to be that the system was that if you had a chief executive, the head of the executive branch of the government, who was doing stuff like that, you could count on the heads of the legislative branch to either rein him in or disown him and get rid of him. And the Founding Fathers never imagined a time when that would not be true. They didn't imagine how it could be true, considering that all of these individual people, executive and legislative, are all elected. They all have their own campaigns to run. They all have their own staffs to pay. They all have their own constituents to please. So it's not a question of someone comes into power and then purges the ranks of Congress and starts appointing flunkies. It's not a question of that. That doesn't happen in American politics. And I guess the Founding Fathers thought, well, as long as that doesn't happen, there's no way that the legislative branch, that Congress, will just lay down like a dog in the road in the face of enormous improprieties on the part of the executive branch. No, instead, to preserve themselves, they'll strike out. They'll do something. They'll make a stand. If that doesn't happen, then what you have is an executive branch that gets to do what it wants. And that's bad. That's very, very bad. It was bad with Trump's predecessor, who, in the face of an inveterately obstructionist Congress, a Congress that actually, the minority leader of the opposition party, in that Congress came out and said that their number one priority was to thwart the president. Say no to anything he asked for, refuse, block, obfuscate, water down any legislation that he tries to get through Congress. A horrible thing. When Mitch McConnell said that, and when all of Congress agreed with it, all the Republicans in Congress agreed with it, they should all have been voted out of office. Every single one of their constituents should have said, no, your priority is making things better for us, not hating someone. But because President Obama faced that, he had to resort to all sorts of executive actions. And at the time that he did it, his predecessor did a few executive actions too. At the time that he did it, I was howlingly outraged, saying, no, no, no. You get an obstructionist Congress, okay, that's bad luck for you. Do what you can, work to win people over, but you don't just make laws by fiat. Not only because that's dictatorial, but also because it's totally useless. If you make a raft of laws and regulations by executive fiat and your successor doesn't like you, the executive fiat will work to remove them. And then what do you have? Then you have the United States in treaties. You have all sorts of rules and regulations that people have come to rely on. And all of a sudden, they don't count. They change from administration to administration. That doesn't work at all. Not at all. And we're seeing that. So, what's the matter? What are you doing up here? I thought you'd be down on the floor destroying things. Oh, she's up here now. Maybe she's sick of... Oh. Here, you go down there. Anyway. What? What? You have a floor covered in stuff to eat, and she wants to eat me. She does prefer live flesh to anything else. But you can't eat me. No. No. The problem is that I can't feel it. So she gets to just rag on me with rage. and I don't ever say, ow, and pull my hand away. And that's a bad example for her. Shut up, you. Now, you hold on. I have to make a video. Anyway, the point of that huge rambling digression was that I want this book to have its teeth out. I want this... if this is a book about the Trump presidency, I want it to be about the Trump presidency. I don't want to say, rising racial tensions with a guy who gives a wink and a nod and a green light to actual Nazis marching in the United States. I want him to come out and say it. I don't know if that will be, this thing is very early, so yeah, it doesn't have an index, so I won't really know. I'll have to look and see. I'll have to read it and see, and then I will be presented with an entirely different problem, which is, no matter what Ellis's problem was in writing this book, do I want it to be explicitly about one president? I don't want to alienate his followers. I want to sell books in Dixie. But also, I also don't want to bog this down to one particular character one way or another. I want this to be an ideological discussion. Okay, that's the problem he faces. The problem I will face is that I don't want my review to be political. Not in the trenches sense. That's what the op-ed page is for. I don't want the review to be partisan, I guess, is the word. So I'll have to figure out a way. I like it, though. I like that kind of a challenge. And I haven't reviewed Ellis in quite some time. So you'll be relieved to know that we're done with that book now. Let's see. They love to see when you jump for things, Frieda. You want to attack this on camera? Okay. This one comes out in September. Oh, okay, all right. I think we saw this already. I think we saw an advanced copy of this. Well, let's see. It's a lovely thing. It's Summer at the Garden Cafe by Felicity Hayes McCoy. In her enchanting U.S. debut, The Library at the Edge of the World, the author transported readers to the fictional Finfarren Peninsula on the idyllic west coast of Ireland. We still live on the west coast of Ireland. I detected nothing that was idyllic. Uncertain heroine Hannah Casey found her voice and took a stand to protect her local library and the community she had surprisingly come to love. In the second Hayes McCoy Finfarne Peninsula series, the sequel to The Library at the Edge of the World, which I don't have and now really need, I'm hoping that the publicist will be obliging, is a heartwarming story about secrets between 4 generations of women, the healing powers of books, love, and friendship. Doesn't that sound like just what you need, especially after that last rant of mine? The Garden Cafe, next to Lisburg Library, is a place where plans are formed and secrets shared, and where, even in high tourist season, people are never too busy to stop for a sandwich and a cup of tea. But 21-year-old Jazz, the town librarian Hannah's daughter, has a secret she can't share. Still recovering from a car accident and reeling from her father's disclosures about his longtime affair, she's taken a job at the Old Forge guest house and begun to develop feelings for a man who's strictly off-limits. Meanwhile, involved in her own new affair with architect Brian Morton, Hannah is unaware of the turmoil in Jazz's life, until her manipulative ex-husband Malcolm reappears trying to mend his relationship with their daughter. Rebuffed at every turn, Malcolm must return to London, but his mother Louisa is on the case. Unbeknownst to the rest of the family, she hatches a plan, finding an unlikely ally in Hannah's mother, the opinionated Mary Casey. So, I think this is going to end up being simply charming writing, but I don't think I read Library at the Edge of the World, so I should probably do that. Then we've got this great big thing. This great big envelope here. It must be. I'm guessing that it is the advanced copy of an oversized finished edition, where the finished copy will be a bigger book, and so. Oh, what have we got here? Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, it is. All right. I was absolutely right. This is, oh, fantastic. All right. Great. This is, the Smithsonian book of space exploration. The Smithsonian History of Space Exploration by Roger Lanius, From the Ancient World to the Extraterrestrial Future. And it's going to be a big thing from the Smithsonian Institute Press. With lots and lots. I mean, their standard thing. They do it beautiful. The finished copy will be beautiful. And this is all about the history of space exploration, which is a subject that I absolutely love. And I'm going to be reviewing this for the Christian Science Monitor, which is a joy. It's an absolute joy. Well, I'll just have to hope that this is... I'm hoping that this is a really, really good one-volume popular introduction to the subject. Let's see here. Throughout history, humans have been fascinated by space. From the Babylonian astronomers of 700 BCE, BCE means before the Christian era or before the Common Era, and ACE means after the Christian era, after the Common Era. And what's the linchpin factor? Jesus Christ. You're not allowed to say that. To the ancient Inca and Aztec builders of early astronomical observatories, to the launch of Sputnik 1 and the moon landing, through today's private and public space exploration endeavors, we have always looked to the skies to learn about our place in the universe. This book is the first in-depth, fully illustrated history of global space discovery and exploration from ancient times to the modern era. Okay, wins on the technicality, squeaks by on the detail. It's not the first. Obviously, DK and a bunch of other publishers have done that. But it squeaks by on a technicality if you mean the modern era, that it's the most recent. It's the most up-to-date. Exoplanets, for instance, would be barely a glimmer in the eye of an earlier big history of space exploration, whereas exoplanets can get an extensive description here. Space historian Roger Lanius examines the thousands of years of humans have endeavored to understand the universe, including the pioneer work undertaken by the ancient Greece, Rome, and China. Wow. Okay. Great. Fantastic. I can't wait to get to this. So that's 2 that I'm reviewing. That's wonderful. I absolutely love the history, the whole subject of the sheer heroism of space exploration, the forward thinking of it, all that sort of stuff. I just love it. And I've had the pleasure in my life to know quite a few astronomers, and they make it great. They make it extra great. When you can put a human face on some things, that's fantastic. Or a human name on some phenomenon. There is a space phenomenon that's in all your science textbooks, and the person who gave his name to it was a friend of mine, and we talked every week, usually about Tolkien and Dunsany and Beowulf, but sometimes about science as much as he could walk me through, and that was wonderful. I miss those talks, and it's weird to remember those talks with an actual flesh and blood person, and then to open up a textbook and see a mention of the Van Allen radiation belts. That's just so weird. It must be like knowing somebody on Mount Rushmore. But anyway, we're done with the envelopes. Now we have the huge box. Which is from one of you. It's a present. It's a gift. And it's taped as if I were in outer space. when 3 pieces of tape would do just fine, this has 40 miles of tape on it. So I'm very glad, in this case, as in all cases, I'm very glad to have the scissors. And I've got a very avidly attentive schnauzer because she's wondering if she's going to get the mother of all boxes because it's so huge. I don't know, baby. This is as big as you are. You might not be able to handle this. She knows no fear. My little schnauzer. She's not afraid of anything. She will, on our walks, she will pause, stock still, and stare at something if it's new. If she doesn't recognize it, she'll stare at it, but only to assess it, not because she's afraid of it. It's very strange. After 16 years of one of the dogs that I had for 16 years was afraid of everything. Look at this. Oh, that's right. Oh my God, Frieda. So this is Project Penguin. This thing that for the penguin wall there that I've been talking to you all about for a year now, where you go to your local used bookstore, and when you see Penguin Classics for sale, trade paperback Penguin Classics for sale, just take a picture and send it to me. And I originally proposed that just so that I would see what Penguin trade paperbacks were out there. I had no idea how much fun it would be to get these picture bulletin boards from everywhere in the world. That's just so much fun. And the person who sent this sent some penguins, but they also filled it with dog toys. With dog toys. There's all sorts of chewy stuff here. Of course, the irony, as any dog person will know, is that you go to all this bother, and then the dog mostly just enjoys destroying boxes. But here, let's see. Let's see what we got here. Frieda, you're going to want one of these. Yes? You can't have the box, I don't think. The box might be too big, but what is this? This is Wellness Soft Well Bites. Do you want a well bite, baby? What do you think? No, the verdict is against the well bites. She's choking it down, as Mr. Burns would say. Oh God! Look at all this stuff. Oh, thank you so much. You know who you are. Thank you so much. This is incredible. This box is entirely full of treats for my dog. But it also here. So we've got all these toys and treats and whatnot. Yes, I know, baby. Do you want another well bite? Do you want another well bite? See if... let's dig past all of the dog treats and see what we have in the way of books. Oh, Fanny Hill. A lovely trade paperback. Look at that. I was a bit of a shame that you would crop this famous painting. Those of you who recognize it will know what's happening in the uncropped version of that painting. Maybe they thought they wanted it to be good for all age groups. The uncropped version of this painting is pretty licentious, so that might be why. How about another well bite, baby? I'm assuming if they say well bite, then they can't be bad for you in large numbers. Here. All right, let's see here. What's the next one? Ooh, Quintus Curtius Rufus. The History of Alexander. Quintus Curtius Rufus, one of the absolute best, I think. I mean, he's one of our absolute best sources for Alexander. No primary sources, but he worked with a lot of them, and I like the way he manages them. It's not quite the ideological free for all. Oh, fantastic, lovely. All right, what's next here? This is like this huge box full of stuff. That's one. Okay. This is the Memoirs of a Justified Sinner, James Hogg. A book I haven't read in a long, long time. So this will be. Oh, where are you going? Oh no, I guess you can have that. Yes, all this stuff is yours, Frieda. It's not mine. James Hogg's Confessions of a Justified Sinner has been called the greatest novel of Scotland. Robert Ringham's family is composed of a father and brother, a pious mother, and a rival father in the person of a fanatical Calvinist minister. Oh, I haven't read this in forever. Oh, my. And then what have we got here? Oh, it's Balzac. Harlot High and Low in a lovely, lovely Penguin edition. Look at that. So this will go right with my other... I have very little Balzac in Penguin. And then it's just, all the rest is just a huge box of treats. That is so nice. All right. Okay. Well, there we have it. That took a while to get there, but here you go, baby. Oh, no, she's got the squeaky lamb. All right. All right. So let's make some sort of Steve pyramid here. We have the Smithsonian History of Space Exploration, which is going to be a big eyeful of a thing when it comes out in a finished copy. Then... American Dialogue by Joseph Ellis. What would the Founding Fathers think of 2018 election, of 2018 politics in America? Killer Thriller by Lee Goldberg. Summer at the Garden Cafe, set in the idyllic west coast of Ireland. And then 4 Penguin classics. Balzac's A Harlot High and Low. James Hogg's Justified Sinner. Quintus Curtius Rufus, The History of Alexander. And John Cleland, Fanny Hill. Wow. Okay, so 4 more Penguins for the Penguin Classic wall that I'm slowly touring you through. Wonderful. Oh my, thank you so much. Okay, well, this video went on a bit long. Sorry about that. I'll wrap this up, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.